So let's get into conversation with Ariel. Before we start, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to Nevada County, your history, just a bit.
Yeah, so I was born in Argentina, lived in Chile for a few years. My family moved to Northern California in the 80s, and I moved in the early 90s. We were in the Berkeley area for many years. Eventually, it was never, that area was never really in my heart. I had many friends in Nevada County, and it just felt like going home to me. It was really like touched my heart being in that area, being close to the river, people who are like-minded and doing similar things, and teaming up with the whole community, growing together, learning from each other. So it's been a pleasure being in the area, and more than an honor to actually have my first shop there. I'm really grateful for all the support I received from friends and community in doing that.
Glad to have you here. Welcome. Thank you. I look forward very much to visiting your shop in person and trying one of each of everything you've got there. We'll go into the shop in a little bit, but we're going to start talking about the origins of chocolate. And I think you've kind of got a little presentation for us.
Yeah. See if I can screen share here. So as a map, Mesoamerica covers Mayan, Aztec, Olmec civilizations, and cacao can be traced about 4,000 years ago to southern Mexico, where the Mayans and the Olmecs used to use cacao in ceremony. Dried cacao beans actually were used as money primarily by the Aztec Empire, and sometimes they were more valuable than gold. So that's how important cacao was traditionally. The word cacao comes from the Olmec and Mayan word cacao, which is spelled K-A-K-A-W. Cacao was used for sacred drinks, to connect with the divine, to host rituals, to host ceremonies. Chocolatl is a Nahuatl word spoken by the Aztecs, and it actually means a bitter drink. So that's why when you drink ceremonial cacao without adding sugar and milks and things, it's pretty bitter usually. Sometimes people do add a little milk, maybe honey, and other things to make it more palatable, but we mainly want to drink it as raw as possible. Theobroma cacao, it means the food of the gods, and the reason it's named that is because that's the way the natives refer to cacao in their own language. So the way cacao spread started around the 1600s with the first plantation starting around Ecuador, and then it was introduced to Brazil by the French, to the Dominican Republic, and then the English started growing it in Jamaica. For most of the 19th century, it was enjoyed as a beverage. It wasn't really a chocolate bar yet until 1847, when the British, there was a chocolatier, J.S. Fry, and let me show you what that looks like. He created basically the first bar molded, and that's kind of what the first chocolate bar looked like right there. It's made of copper and then covered in steel, polished chrome or something like that. So the chocolate itself was made from a paste of sugar, chocolate paste, and cacao butter. 32 years later, after that, Swiss Rudolf Lindt, chocolatier, invented the conch machine, which we still use today. And let me pull out the picture of that.
The what machine?
It's called conch. It's a refiner. Can you see that picture?
Yep.
So those large wheels right there are made of granite, and they're basically crushing cacao nibs, or which is basically a bean that's just crushed into smaller pieces, and they just keep running over it with these big stone grinders, and it basically just ends up looking like a liquid, just like you see in the picture.
So
What it does is it mixes and aerates the
there's
chocolate.
no sugar in there yet.
There might be. You don't necessarily need to add sugar. I don't know in this particular picture if there's sugar in there or not. I would imagine there is by the color of it. Otherwise, it'll be a little darker. But normally, things like sugar and some of your ingredients are added at this point. A little cacao butter makes it creamier. And in this process, it becomes really smooth, silky-like. You start developing your aroma and your flavors. So this is a really important part of the process that really changed things. In 1883, the Swiss chocolatier Daniel Peter and his friend Henry Nestle created the Nestle company and made chocolate into the milk chocolate, particularly. That's how it got into the mass markets. That's why it's one of the largest companies today still. The largest chocolate bar ever made weighed 5,792 kilos. I'm going to show you a picture of that. And this is a 13-foot by 13-foot chocolate bar.
That would last me about 2 weeks.
Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
So that bar was created in the UK by Thorntons in October 2011. So would you like me to continue into varieties of cacao?
Yeah. Keep going, man.
So that's the largest chocolate bar right there. So these are the 3 varieties of cacao right here. Criollo is really one of the tastiest cacao. It looks a little whiter. The beans are a little whiter looking. They're really rare. It's considered a delicacy. And one of the largest producers of criollo beans today is in Venezuela. And you might have heard of like Chihuahua or Porcelana. Sometimes you'll see those names in chocolate bars because they're really proud of having this cacao. In 1916, there was an outbreak of a fungus called witch's broom, and it unfortunately made criollo practically extinct. In fact, they thought it was extinct until recently, where they found more sources of it. So now you have criollo growing in Guatemala, in Ecuador, and other regions, but it's still very rare. In fact, 80 to 90% of cacao today is forastero. And that's pretty much the reason why. Forastero is not as tasty. It's more often used for like the cacao butter for pharmaceuticals. There's a lot of products that are made from cacao, and then they extract the cacao powder and they separate it from the cacao fat, which I don't think that's a good thing to do for quality chocolate. And they sell it to the highest bidders for pharmaceutical industries and cheap chocolate like Nestle or whatever. They buy powder and cheap ingredients, and that's why those chocolates are really cheap. And the third type of cacao you see here is Trinitario, which is actually from Trinidad, and that's a hybrid between both the criollo and the forastero. It yields a lot more, and it's a lot more resistant to disease, so it hasn't been prone to the problems criollo has with fungus. Which is still something that some of the farms struggle with today who are growing the criollo cacao. It is a lot harder to do, especially organically. So we really value people who are trying to grow this native cacao properly.
How big are these fruits?
Well, they look like small footballs, about something like this. But they do vary a little bit. But they're not too big. I do have a picture of me holding one. Let's see if I can find it. I was gonna pop it up later, but.
And can you eat one of those fruits straight?
You actually can, and it's very common. Not so much. Can you see it?
Uh-huh.
So there's what cacao. This is in Guatemala. It's one of the farms I visited, and we do carry their cacao. This is Dalileo, and we use that cacao for drinks, which I was going to talk about later. But that's what a cacao pod looks like. And yeah, if you split it open, let me see if I have it. Don't know if I have a picture right now of that, but yeah. Then you see the beans, and it's covered in a white pulp, which is delicious. The pulp ferments really fast. That's why it's really rare. Most people don't get to try the pulp unless they go to the source where cacao is growing, and then they chop it open with machete, and you can eat it. It's delicious. They do make sometimes like wine out of it, and other drinks like alcoholic drinks, and from the fermented cacao pulp. We do have one chocolate bar at the shop that has the pulp, and it's been freeze dried. So that's the only other way that you can have it in chocolate right now. And we do have cacao pulp drinks, so it's just been turned into a drink. Those are really good.
Could you, if you were eating the pulp raw, could you tell the difference between the different varieties on the flavor?
I can. It's a little hard to do, and not always, but overall, yeah.
Great. Harvesting.
So, unlike most flowers, cacao is pollinated by little flies, and they're called Forcipomia midges. They have a weird name. They're little tiny flies. So, pods grow on the stem of the branches. Let me show you a picture of that. So it's one of the few things that grows on the stem. There we go. So this is also in Guatemala. That's being next to a cacao tree. Those are pretty ripe cacao pods still, so they don't have bright colors yet. So you get about 30 to 40 beans in one cacao pod, and it takes about 400 beans to make 1 pound of chocolate. People around the world today consume about 3 million tons of chocolate every year. So should I continue to help them?
Yeah.
Okay. So there are many health benefits in cacao. That's why it's considered a superfood. Probably one of the most nutritious, beneficial foods you'll ever have. So cacao has flavonoids. Sounds like flavonoids, and those are antioxidants. It has more calcium than cow's milk. It is really dense in iron and magnesium, and it contains 2 stimulants. One is theobromine, and the other one's caffeine. Unlike caffeine, theobromine gives you a longer lasting, more relaxed energy. So it won't give you like spikes and crashes like coffee does. It's not addicting. And the only bad thing about theobromine is that it's not metabolized by most animals. And that's why people freak out when their dog gets near chocolate, because it could kill the chocolate. Even bears, it has been known to kill. So it's really important to keep your chocolate high if you have pets, and that is why. Flavonoids in cacao can help improve insulin, so it's good for people who have type 2 diabetes. It can help with focus, it can help with memory, and research has shown that it can reduce stress, it can lower your blood pressure, and it can benefit your digestive system. There are 2 neurotransmitters in cacao. One is called serotonin. This one will help you feel better, it can help treat depression, and the other one is endorphins. And those are tiny neurochemicals that reduce pain. They can affect your mood, and they are released when you exercise, when you eat chocolate, or when you're having sex. So you've probably heard of endorphins before, and that's why. It is definitely an aphrodisiac. And I think that's why it's a great day to be talking about chocolate today. So there are 2 love chemicals in cacao. One of them is phenylethylamine. It's a really hard word to pronounce, and it's also known as PEA. So that makes it easier to talk about. This is a natural occurring amino acid that can help boost your libido. The second one is anandamide, and ananda is the word of bliss. This is what happens when we fall in love. It has been associated with improving motivation and increasing pleasure. So with chocolate, when you're eating milk chocolates, highly processed chocolates, you're not going to get a lot of these benefits. And you might have heard people looking for dark chocolates particularly. That is why, because the darker chocolate is, the more all these things will still be present. I recommend 60 to 70% or higher, or even ceremonial cacao, which is basically 100%. That's mostly what I specialize in. I almost don't consider anything lower than that to be a chocolate bar. I think it's just not. It's like an insult to chocolate, personally. Anything lower than 50, I would just avoid and not support it. So that's just me, and that's my advice.
I want to get into this dark chocolate, milk chocolate rift a little bit. But before we do that, don't we have a video we're supposed to show? I think we forgot to show the video.
Let's do it.
Let's see that video.
Right at the Center for the Arts, and we are here with...
Hi, my name is Ariel. This is Choquiero Chocolate. We're a chocolate shop, a cafe, and a retail shop, supporting lots of local members of the community and bringing lots of delicious yumminess to Nevada City.
All right, let's go inside.
Ring. Here we are. Let's go check out Choquiero Chocolate. Follow me. So as you come in our shop, to the right is our ceremonial cacao wall. All this over here is different ceremonial cacao. A lot of it is from Guatemala, or like the heart of cacao, where the trees originate from. It's a really good way to get high quality superfood cacao into your system in a delicious way, where you can really benefit from all the benefits of the superfood. It's really good for your heart. Some people have said it helps them with depression, has high levels of magnesium. It affects everyone a little different, but it is gonna affect you in a really good way, I know that.
I'm gonna make a chai and a house cacao. So we have homemade nut milk, cashew walnut, and almond coconut that we make here in our nut milk machine. And we're gonna heat them up. We use almond coconut milk for the chai. And our chai mix is homemade with a bunch of delicious spices from the local apothecary. And for the house cacao, we use our cashew walnut milk. And our house ganache, which is made using organic ceremonial cacao from Guatemala. And looks like this.
That music is giving me a kind of sexy time vibe, I have to say.
That's very nice.
Let me ask, so that chocolate ganache, does that have sugar in it?
No, it doesn't actually. That's from Galileo. Here's a picture of that farm. Let me pull this up real quick. So that's Manuel in the background there. He's a good friend, or Lawrence, sorry. He's the guy with the hat on the trailer. We were here for it's called a cacao convergence. So all these people here showed up from all parts of the world for this convergence to just learn about cacao, the plants, the medicine, the traditions. Part of what we did was we did a traditional Mayan ceremony with cacao, with candles. It was actually pretty different from most ceremonies that you're seeing the western part of the American continent. So it was nice to be part of the more of a traditional ceremony there, and share cacao with the natives, see where the plants grow, and learn all about this farm. Then now we carry their cacao at our shop. So it's quite an amazing process.
I mean, well, let's tell us how you came to open Choquiero, and then we'll talk about ceremonies.
Sure. So in 2012, around that time, I started growing food. I got into permaculture, had a large garden. This happened in West Oakland at the time. And we were all about regenerative, organic farming, basically. One of the first things I did actually was more homemade sauerkraut, non-dairy cheeses, all kinds of food items, and eventually chocolate. And I was never thinking it was going to turn into a business. It was just a fun, delicious activity to do with friends and family. And I would make different chocolates every time and share them with friends, share them with community. It was always just on a gig to people. And then they started wanting to order it from me. And it was more and more, and they were like, I'll pay you anything, just make me a dozen. And so that's how Choquiero was formed into more of a business. But I used to always carry chocolate in my pocket and just give it out to my friends and stuff. From there, I kept all my principles. So every bar that we've ever made actually has been non-dairy. It's fully like guilt-free, at least for me. We really stick to organic ingredients. Our packaging is compostable. It always has been. We don't really like creating any waste, anything that might harm the planet. I always said if the company ever grows to a point that I have to lessen my standards, that I would just stop doing it. And that's still something today that we're doing. So yeah, when I moved to Nevada City, I was still pretty much making chocolate in my home kitchen. We weren't really a business yet that you might see in stores, but I really wanted to get in the markets. We started working with Regenerative Kitchen in Santa Cruz, so that we could make a product that would be legal to sell in stores. One of our first customers was actually Elixir, right there on Broad Street, and we still love them. And then we got into Briar Patch and a few other stores, and we're still growing. We're a very small company, but we have really quality cacao and all our chocolate. Like I said, Choquiero shop was Lulu's chocolate shop first. It didn't really occur to me to have that shop until I saw that her space was for lease, and I'm like, whoa, that's a great opportunity to really like expand what I'm offering with chocolate. And right away it became obvious that we're gonna be carrying a lot more than Choquiero chocolate there. I had no idea that it would turn into almost like 1,000 different chocolate bars in there, but it quickly did, and it felt really good. And getting to know a lot of other chocolatiers and supporting my other friends in the chocolate business as well. And not just chocolate, but local craft makers, people who make body care products, jewelry. We have all kinds of things there. It's amazing. As well as even like chocolate toothpaste, chocolate soap. Everything's about any chocolate product from anywhere around the world. I'm all about trying new things and seeing what you could do with cacao and chocolate.
But no milk chocolate.
Well, actually, we have some.
You do.
But yeah. But we prefer it to be more on the dark side if possible. We mostly have milk chocolate for kids, and some adults, and we even have some caramel. So the shop is not 100% vegan, but we are.
But I mean, I've always felt like, and this is a gross generalization, but milk chocolate is for men and dark chocolate is for women. No,
like that, but
I can't say that on Zoom.
I will say that dark chocolate will help with like PMS symptoms. So we do have a lot of women looking for chocolate, and we actually have some chocolate specific for for PMS, and one of them is like by our friends Chocolita. We just did a giveaway with them. My friend Sarah runs Chocolita in Arizona, and they have one called Moontime Rose, which is one of the highest selling bars. So
I mean, I almost feel like we're talking about two different worlds or two different products here. You know, it's like the American idea of chocolate is Nestle, you know, and it's sugar first and chocolate second, maybe. But you're talking about ceremony and healing benefits and a lot of other things that we don't really associate with Hershey's or Almond Joy.
yeah, and that's where having some milk chocolate helps. Most of our customers are somewhere in the middle, but they're willing to listen. And sometimes you get people who are like, "Where's the Hershey's?" "Oh no, I'm not buying anything here," and they walk away and leave. We really appreciate it when people come with more of an open mind and giving us a chance to explain why we carry these chocolates and what we're trying to do with them. So.
And the drinks you serve there, I mean, they have sugar in them, right?
None of them have like high processed sugars. There's no cane sugar in our shop, in the kitchen. Mostly we like to work with local honey by Wingfield, maple syrup by Tree Juice. We have monk fruit, which is a sugar alternative, and coconut sugar. That's one of our most used sweets, but we're probably using half or less what most like cafe chocolate shops put in their drinks. Sometimes even like maybe 20%. We do get some people who don't like that, and then they come back and we add a little more sweetener for them. But overall, our drinks are going to be much less sweetened, or they're going to be sweetened with, like I say, honey or maple syrup or something that's much.
I mean, if I go in there and get one of your drinks, am I going to recognize it as hot chocolate, or is it going to be a completely different experience?
It depends on the drink. We have lots of exotic drinks that we develop that are not really available anywhere else, such as like the Golden Jaguar. It has the Jaguar Cacao, obviously, which is Macambo. It's a really rare bean. I believe this one's from Venezuela. Cru chocolate, CRU. We're actually working with them to bring in this cacao. They know the farmers, and so they help us bring it. And we also have it in a little tablet so you can take home and make it yourself. This is more of a turmeric blend. It's very creamy. It's really good for you. And right now we have a Lover's Tonic. That particular drink has some aphrodisiac herbs. It does have the local honey in there, and it doesn't really taste like a chocolate drink. But if you wanted more of a traditional chocolate drink experience, we have our house cacao, which is really chocolatey, and you can make it a little more sweetened if you want it to taste like what you're used to at other chocolate shops, or you can have our version, which is going to be a lot healthier for you. That's made with ceremonial grade cacao from Dalileo, which is the farm. And we also work with this other group. I'll show you an image of this collective. This is Ruk Ukushlev. So we have a drink called Rose Goddess, which was, can you see it? Yeah. So in the summer, we were serving a cold drink made with their cacao and rose and dates. We blended that together with our cashew walnut milk. We make our own milks, by the way, with filtered water, and we sprout the nuts overnight so that you get the most benefits. It makes it 10 times healthier for you to do it this way. It releases some of the toxins, and it has they are the ones harvesting, processing the cacao, and it really helps them, and as well as other local, more native communities throughout Guatemala. So we do have a mission in everything we do to try to help other communities and small farmers and local growers, etc. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, totally. Hindi wants to know, where is your manufacturing space? How many employees do you have?
So that's in Santa Cruz. It depends really on what it is, because all our drinks are made in the shop. Some of our chocolate bars are made in the shop, and the majority of Choquiero for retail is made in Santa Cruz. the regenerative space with Brent Willett. That's an old time friend of mine. We've been working together, I would say it's at least 6 years. So I don't have the funding to rent, $10,000 a month commercial kitchen and then spend another $500,000 to $1 million in equipment. So we work together. He already has the equipment to process. So I'm in Santa Cruz a lot as well as in Vice City.
Tell us about the chocolate ceremony. And, obviously when you say this and we're talking about Central America, I mean, South America, the thing that comes to me is ayahuasca. Is this similar to an ayahuasca ceremony?
I'll say yes and no. Yes, in terms of integrity, what's expected of people attending a ceremony. There's a similar, I want to be there, so I'm gonna really honor what's expected of me when I come to the ceremony. So people do go out of their way to attend ceremonies in general. So in that way, yes, and also they're both plant medicines. So that's another form that they're similar, but the way it's going to affect you is going to be very different. It's not necessarily going to send you on a shamanic journey, dream vision, or, everyone has different experiences with ceremonies. But it's more about the heart, listening to your inner wisdom, connecting with this plant medicine. Is really gentle. It's always going to be a gentle experience. Sometimes you might cry, but that's not the plant that's making you cry. That's emotions that you're supposed to deal with that maybe you've been trying to keep hidden, and then it just comes out. So some people do cry in cacao ceremonies. Some people, like myself, have had life-changing experience to where you leave a ceremony and then you just feel like you're not the same person anymore, usually in a good way. So, and that's where it's what cacao ceremonies are really about, is a group of people coming together to heal and grow and learn from each other. And that's what we look forward to in most of plant medicines. They're here for us to gain wisdom and use, not necessarily, I don't like the word use, but to work with them.
And do you offer these ceremonies? I mean, can somebody just step into your shop and say, hey, I want to do the chocolate ceremony?
I never have done it in that form. I have done several cacao ceremonies and I've been part of many ceremonies, but it's usually for friends. We had the chocolate and tea gathering events we did for 5 years. When it started, we were offering chocolate and tea, but not cacao ceremonies. There was a point in which we went to Standing Rock, and when we came back, we did a water ceremony to kind of share our experiences there. And that was a big fight for Native American rights. A lot of people went from Nevada City to Standing Rock, and it was a very long endeavor that we did because we wanted more justice for Native rights. So we did several. Eventually, we did start doing cacao ceremonies. I started by myself, and then I had other friends. Let me show you a picture here. Friends that we did chocolate and tea gathering events with. Just 1 second. So, here it is. So I like to encourage other community members to help in the ceremonies. So some of them I've done, and other times I just created a space for other people to share cacao and to share their ceremonies. This was at my house, and those are cacao beans from Mexico. That's Daphne, and that's Brian. And what we did is we processed these beans in a large group and turned those beans into actual ceremonial cacao. And that took it wasn't a one-time thing. It took 2 days. We had to hand peel each one of those beans, which took literally 2 full days. It takes a long time to peel cacao beans. And then we turn that into a paste, and we share that in some of our own ceremonies, and we brought some of that paste to other ceremonies in other parts, because a lot of love and energy from many people went into that cacao. It was really special to share that.
Okay, it's almost time to wrap up here. If anybody has any last questions. Indy says, you said that cacao beans are hand peeled. Is that true across the board?
No, definitely not. That's what we did for a very small batch, house-made ceremonial cacao. For a lot of ceremonial cacao, they're hand peeled. I would say 99% of chocolate or more is not hand peeled. There's a process called winnowing. So there's a machine after you lightly roast usually cacao, it makes the shell crack, and then it just cracks it a little bit more, and then something blows the husks. It's called the husk is the outer shell. It just blows it to the side because it's much lighter. So then you can, that would take 1 minute to winnow that much cacao instead of 2 days. So,
I'm a coffee guy myself. You might have heard of that. But so much of what you're talking about sounds so similar. Are those plants related in any way?
They grow in similar regions. They like to be near the equator, and they do have some notes that are similar. They also both have caffeine and caffeine. Cacao has theobroma. I don't believe coffee has theobroma, but they're both going to be energetic plants. And yeah, they often grow together in the same farms.
And we
but
call
they're
them
not
both
of the same species.
We call them both beans, but really neither one of them is a bean, or at least not a legume.
Well, cacao beans are because they grow in a pod, and then you find the beans inside. I believe coffee is a little bit different.
Okay. Last question before we wrap up. So if I come to the store, is there a drink that's actually really close to the original, or what we think was the original Aztec drink?
Yes, we have it. For example, the Rukukushlev cacao showing earlier, we have their cacao in pure ceremonial paste. You can buy it. It has a block to take home, or we can make a drink for you. Sometimes we add a little bit of date or cashew milk because it's really bitter. Not everyone can handle it. We also have Keef's cacao. We have Firefly cacao. We have Lava Love. There's about 20 varieties of ceremonial cacao. Some of them come with a little bit of spices, not usually sugar, but a little bit of spices. It's okay. We have one with rose. So there are several, yes.
And have they, have they done like analysis of the inside of pots to really have a pretty firm idea about what the Aztec were drinking? Do we really know, or are we just guessing?
We know, so different cacao will have a higher theobroma content. Those were original native cacao plants. They weren't like harvested for mass-produced chocolate. So I predict that they had a really high theobroma content, and that's really what sends people on a journey. It's one of the reasons Keef's cacao is so popular, is because I believe it's the highest cacao in theobroma content. So it is one of the most preferred cacaos for cacao ceremonies, and also for meditation, yoga. People work with cacao for many different reasons.
Cool. Thank you very much, Ariel. I'm very much looking forward to coming into the shop and trying one of everything, especially all these drinks. Sound very exciting.
When you come by, and we'll be waiting for you.
Okay. Any last questions from anybody? Doesn't look like we've got them in the chat. Thanks everybody for being here. Again, next week we are going to be talking about digital marketing for artists with Patrick Storm. And don't forget to get your tickets for the Fuller Brothers live Friday, February 26th at 7 p.m. Thank you to everybody that makes this show happen. Ariel, Cameron, Conrad, Melissa, Amber, Joe. My name is Jake. Namaste. Thanks, guys.
Bye.